Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar entitled Childcare as Business Infrastructure, the Employer's Role. My name is Peter Banks. I'm the founder and CEO of the HR Director. We are a strategic resource for people, HR and people leaders in print, person and online. Delighted today to be partnered with Bright Horizons, who are the largest provider of employer-sponsored childcare. Brief intro then to the webinar on the topic today. So Parliament recognised childcare as part of the infrastructure for new developments in December 2022 and in March 23. The spring budget centred it as a major key to workforce participation and economic growth. Before this, leading employers were already addressing childcare as a core talent retention strategy, and more recently as part of, cost of living support. The budget focus has created a huge appetite for working parents to access this much needed career support for themselves and, early years education for their children. But many employers are unsure and concerned about the implications of the new funded places. So lots of complexity there. Others are worried that a potential shortage of places under the new funded scheme will put their employees in a challenging position. Research shows productivity falls when childcare is not available. So listen, let's get underway and meet our panel. So joining me today is firstly Shaun Anderson. Shaun is the Operations Manager, CEO, COO, People, Strategy and Business at First Direct. So good morning, Shaun.
Good morning, everyone.
Thanks for taking part. And Jennifer Liston-Smith. Jennifer is Head of Thought Leadership from our partner today, Bright Horizons. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning, Peter, and morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
And finally, also Paul Quartly. Paul is the Enterprise Sales Lead at Bright Horizons too. So hi, Paul.
Hi everyone, good morning.
Brilliant. So let's find out a little bit more about you all. Shaun, if I can start with you, if you could just give me a flavour of your role, organisation, footprint, employee numbers, that would be really useful.
Yeah, no worries, Peter. So my role, well, I work for First Direct Bank, which is part of the HSBC group. I'm the operations manager for First Direct. Covers quite a lot of varied responsibilities, but the key one obviously for this session is I manage the relationship with Bright Horizons for our business in relation to two nurseries we have on the two locations that we're based in Leeds, Sturton and in Hamilton. We have in excess of 3,000 people work out of those buildings. So obviously, from a people proposition and working closely with Bright Horizons, we provide those two facilities.
Brilliant. Thanks, Shaun. Jennifer, could you tell us a little bit more about you and your role and Bright Horizons?
Absolutely. So as you said, I'm Head of Thought Leadership with Bright Horizons, which means I do a lot around advising employers on best practice in relation to working parents and, of course, working parents and working carers too. Bright Horizons, we also have a big employee population. We have something over 7,000 people working for Bright Horizons in the UK. Many of those are engaged as early years educators in our around 300 community nursery settings around the UK and also employer nurseries. And we also have a whole other side to the business that serves employers directly with services like backup care when care arrangements fall over, things like coaching individuals through the transition to parenthood, serving with online resources all around combining work and family successfully for individuals, for managers, for organisations. So there's a whole raft of things that we do, which are all about really making family work and making family combined with career work effectively. I've been with Bright Horizons in different roles. So I originally developed the coaching and consultancy side of the business and led that for a decade. And as I say, now I do more of the kind of advisory side.
Lovely. Thank you, Jennifer. And Paul, just finally from you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So my name's Paul. So I work directly with employers, again, to help them understand, support, and develop solutions that help their working families better manage any tension that arises between those two professional and personal responsibilities.
Brilliant. Right, thank you all. That's terrific. Now let's start with a poll. So just to warm everyone up, question is: are you seeing an increase in inquiries from your employees around accessing childcare? So is it A, yes, B, no, or C, not sure? So I guess Jennifer, whilst we're waiting for them just to make their choices, Jennifer, what predictions? What's going to be on top there, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we are hearing from the employers we work with. We work with over 400 leading employers in the UK, and we're hearing that their employees are asking a lot more about childcare. They're keen to get hold of the funded places, and they're also hearing that there could be a shortage of places. So they're saying to their employers, you know, can you support us in some way? So I would say yes, but interested to see.
Yeah, yeah. Shaun, agree with that kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. We're obviously seeing inquiries and different inquiries. I suppose a little difference from us is in terms of limited places, because we have the on-site nurseries already in place. We're in the fortunate position of knowing we have enough availability for our people. So maybe not that piece, but absolutely hearing more noise on this.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. All right. So I think, Paul, you'll probably be the same. But so let's have a look at the results then. Now pop up there. There we go. So yeah, 50% yes, and then the other two no, 25 not sure, 25%. So yeah, I guess the appetite and is certainly there, isn't it? So that's good. Well, any surprises there, Jennifer? Probably not. I think you're probably. It's a somewhat one, isn't it? We could probably just move on, can't we?
As predicted, but really interesting, and thanks to the audience for taking part, because I know we've got people from a whole range of sectors today, so it's a really nice litmus test. That
good. Okay, well let's look at our first question, and Jennifer, let me come to you on this first one then. So as Jeremy Hunt put it in his spring budget announcement, for many women, a career break becomes a career end. So, you know, how do childcare facilities, do you think, contribute to and talent retention is a key part of this webinar today for the employer and career progression of the individual?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Peter. I think there's various aspects to this. One is the gender pay gap, which opens up around becoming a parent for women and never closes again. And I'm thinking here in particular of the great work of Claudia Goldin, who was recently awarded, as you'll know, the Nobel Prize for Economics. And she identified what, you know, is now, I mean, it's such good work that what she discovered is now completely obvious to us, but wasn't always. But the gender pay gap, the fact that women have sort of mean salaries lower than men, in that they are not climbing the tree to the higher paying roles at the same rate. That's not through choice. That's not through choice of career so much as through parenthood and the time out that's associated with that, and the way that women's careers get kind of derailed to some extent. There are also pieces of evidence. We do a lot of primary research in any given year. One of our pieces of research is with our clients' employees, and this year in what we call the Work and Family Snapshot, we had over 1,750 take part in that, and 91% agreed that having a workplace nursery, having access to those early years places sponsored by employers, helps productivity. 91% said it enhanced productivity. Same number said it enhanced well-being and also made it easier to do their job. So on the one hand, we've got this knowledge that careers get derailed. We've also got people saying, when I've got an on-site nursery, it enables me and empowers me. The Fawcett Society, we know, did a recent piece of research along with Total Jobs, showing that 250,000 women have fallen out of the workforce or fallen behind because of a mismatch between childcare and careers, and 85% struggled to find childcare that fitted their working needs. So we know that there are tensions there, and we know that there are solutions as well. We also know that parenting is becoming less gendered, so I'm really reluctant always to see childcare as, if you like, a women's issue, because it's a parent's issue, right? And there are many men who want to be involved in this now and want to be hands-on parents and need better recognition. And in our other big piece of research that we do annually, the Modern Families Index, which is a random UK sample of the working parent population, 76% of people said they'd had to take a day off work due to childcare needs in the preceding year. That was 77% of women. It was 75% of men. So it's not only women, that's really important to say. So talent retention all around is helped by childcare, and you know the evidence shows it's particularly impacting on women too.
Yeah, I think, as you say, gender is yeah, it's affecting both sides, isn't it? So, Shaun, coming to you then. So, what were the main drivers, you know, for you at First Direct in kind of having childcare support for your workforce? You know, what drove that?
I think firstly it's worth saying, so we've had this provision for in excess of 20 years now. So it's very much around, some of it obviously our approach in terms of how we deem everyone as part of our family and our wider family, and that family ethos runs through. So that work-life balance, and we're a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 days a year operation. So we know there's challenges and balance to that, and the recruitment of our people. So it's something from the outset as an organisation that's been key, and that we've continued to review in terms of, you know, that support and the benefit to the business. We view it a little bit, it's obviously a moment in time in terms of, you know, the families involved, but for us it's about a longer term investment, Peter. For us, yeah, we've got X amount of people using the facility at present, but we've lots of people who have already used it and they've had the benefit, and our future recruitment or other families in, you know, within the premises will use it at some point. So it's very much about seeing it for that long-term investment and the balance, and how then that delivers really both talent and attraction, because it is part of our recruitment and our retention strategy, and we do know it keeps people within our buildings. And we've got some fabulous examples. We have people working in this building now that actually did the 3 or 4 years as children in the nursery and now work here, you know, so we've seen it almost go full circle. I think the other thing worth calling out in terms of drivers, obviously, the workforce changes, the challenges changes, COVID and hybrid have all come into place. So again, we review our overall position and the benefit this delivers as part of our people proposition. And even with the home working and hybrid model, we still see it as a long-term investment and real value for our people. And I'll just share a little bit of insight from our recent parent survey, which you know adds a little bit of value and context around this. So 100% said of the people that said the nursery was either the best benefit offered, or which was 69%, or amongst the best benefits, 31%. But every individual called that out as a main benefit. At the Hamilton nursery, for example, 60% said I am more likely to continue to work for my employer by having this benefit, and 56% it absolutely makes it easier to return after the birth or adoption of a child. You know, so some real testimonials there that back up the value that we place in it and see the quality that we receive.
Yeah, and it's so important to get that feedback, isn't it? You know, and you know, to know that it's having that kind of impact. So, Paul, you know, coming to you then, I guess, can you know, we talked about a range of benefits, but can you sum up the benefits of an employer, I suppose, sponsored childcare across organisations you work with? Because you obviously work with many organisations.
Yeah, no, thanks, Peter. So I think it probably just builds a little bit on what Shaun's just outlined, right? Which is, and for us, it's about making these links. So the folk on the webinar here, and we all understand that talent retention is one of the primary drivers for employers when they're considering childcare. And you know, with the stats that Jennifer's just talked about, and what Shaun said about being the best or amongst the best benefits that employees can access, there's a clear link there between attraction, retention, and the provision of these sorts of support. So that's a big one. We know, and again, you know, just referring back to Shaun, it's great to hear that you're growing your own people there, Shaun. That's one way of clearly attracting, retaining talent by getting them in pretty early, which is great. And in support of that, we know that workplace nurseries are obviously a very sticky benefit. They do provide a competitive edge for both recruitment and retention, and it's a tangible and practical commitment on the path of to their employees' well-being, which again, the folk on this webinar will know has been a key focus over the last few years and will continue to be so. And it just gives working parents a peace of mind in the early years of parenthood, which, for those of us who have children know comes with its own anxieties as well. And then perhaps finally, it supports productivity within the workplace and levels the playing field for employees and allows them to play the part that they want to with their employer in terms of their career.
Right. Okay. Good. And then Jennifer, I think how has the role of the employer, I guess, in supporting families' commitments changed over the years? And I guess what do you think the real reasons are for that?
Yeah, I think it's a really pertinent question just now, Peter, because we've seen enormous change in the last 3 years or so. Everyone will be super aware of that. And during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, employers really leaned in to family life, particularly for those non-frontline workers who tended to work from home. We literally saw into people's family lives in a way that was somewhat unprecedented, and now we can't unsee what we've seen, even though the children are not running past the screen anymore, hopefully, because there's childcare and education back in place. Still, we know now the juggle, and we know also, people are literally bringing themselves to work a little bit more than they were. We've got Generation Z that expects a much more integrated sense of work-life balance in their careers. So there are many factors there that have led employers to own the space of providing family support as part of being an employer of choice. So that's happened, and well-being became a primary focus in the pandemic, which heavily touches on family life, because if those we love are well, then we are well and we are productive and attentive at work. So I think those are sort of key overarching factors. And one of the things, again, coming back to our research, because I think it's always fascinating to look at the evidence and the data, in our Modern Families Index, which is the UK population, back in 2015, 47% of people said, I feel comfortable talking with or confident discussing family related issues with my employer, so nearly half. Now, last year that was 71%, so that's a huge rise in people saying, I'm bringing my family issues to my employer and I'm expecting to be heard. But still, we found that those Bright Horizons employees, so in our other survey, the Work and Family Snapshot, which is our clients' employees, 84% of those with workplace nurseries were finding themselves confident to talk about family at work. So where the employer has taken that step of saying, look, we really get it, we're providing practical support, we're not just hearing you and saying, oh dear me, sorry to hear that this is going on in your life, we're actually stepping in, we're providing the support. People can talk that much more freely, and when people talk, they can fix things, solutions can be found, people have genuine productive conversations with their managers about how their deliverables can be delivered. So I think the conversation has become more open, and those employers that are providing practical support are finding there's even more engagement and confidence around that.
Yeah, I think again, all this much more open is really, really refreshing, isn't it? I think it's been taking us a while to kind of get there, but I think, and I think you rightly say, the COVID kind of years kind of brought that to the forefront. So there's some good things came from it. Shaun, just coming to you. Obviously, I love having practitioners take part in our debates, our events, as I always say, and because you're at the heart of this, So what sort of changes have you seen with your own organisation, and again, what sort of things do you think are, or I think Shaun's got some techie problems at the moment, so let's let him deal with that a second. Well, we'll come back to Shaun in a minute, because he could give us that real world experiences that he's kind of had, really. So Paul, what I mean, you work directly a little bit with Shaun, do you? What sort of things do you think? What else are we seeing here?
So in terms of the changes, I guess that again, just sort of building a little bit on what Jennifer has said.
Yeah.
We're seeing a slight realignment about what the role of the employer is broadly in terms of providing these sorts of supports. So we've talked before about, you know, going back a number of years, the employer may not have considered perhaps intruding on the family in this way, providing this level of support. But because times are changing, change is constant, because people are able to perhaps behave in a more authentic way with their employer and talk to them about, well, this is what's going on outside of the workplace, these are my responsibilities, what can you do? The employers that are responding to that are providing an offer to their employees that you know, is valued, right? And we've seen that value in the data. So I think there's something quite interesting happening about the changing role of the employer as it relates to some of our own personal responsibilities that wouldn't have been there maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I know Shaun probably, you know, again, in terms of the business that we're in, hybrid's probably a big kind of area here. You know, they're going to be very hybrid, aren't they, as an organisation? I'm sure we talk about that. I think remote working,
I mean,
you know, is. Go on, Jennifer. Yeah.
I was just going to say I can speak to that a little bit from chatting with Shaun previously. That, you know, for many employers in the hybrid working world, there is a pull now to get people back to a central place of work. Oh, here's Shaun back again. I was just going to lead in. Shaun, how are you doing? Are you all right with the tech?
Yeah, everything just froze, so I've had to come out.
Don't worry, Shaun, we were literally just, don't worry, we can hear you loud and clear. We were just at a point of really just trying to find out from you as you know, I said I like practitioners to be taking part in these because you're at the real life world working experience of this, you know, in terms of your employees. So I guess going back to kind of on the back of what Jennifer was talking about, what sort of changes have you seen within your own organisation over these period of time, and what do you think's driven this?
I suppose changes within the organisation, as I say, I think always from the outset, because of our operating model and our operating window, that's something we've had to embrace, adapt to, certainly from our thinking about our shift patterns and all of those types of things. But the childcare becomes, you know, really integral to that piece. So again, working around the nursery elements, we worked around how people can book shift patterns in the nursery, so it's probably not how people would judge your traditional high street. For example, we allow people to book in 4-hour slots, for example, and we don't have half days or going morning or afternoon. So, you know, so in combination with the relationship in those discussions, we can ensure that the patterns align with our business and our operating model. So that really, I think, from the changes from our people point of view, it continues to be, from a recruitment perspective, absolutely, and a real attraction piece. And as the market, certainly where we're based, and we have more competition for people doing similar roles, again, it's another added benefit in terms of a real driver from a recruitment point of view. I think more recently, and I think this is where I froze and you were touching on, obviously, the COVID and then the hybrid. So that's brought real different challenges for us, obviously. We operate a hybrid model, so people can work from home, but reality is we are bringing people back more into the office environment. And again, for those that have started a family or within that piece, it offers real reassurance of them coming back, you know, how they can operate. The other challenges for us, though, from that piece is we do have people that do live, you know, over an hour away from the office, for example. So again, that becomes a balance for them and a decision over that commuting to work. But the reassurance of they rock up, they park 3 minutes away from their desk, drop the child off, you know, and all of that time saving and efficiency and assurances, you know, adds real value. But the challenge for us has certainly been where people work, that changing model, and we've certainly revisited that from a childcare provision as well to make sure that still aligns with supporting our people. And it's a resounding yes, it absolutely does. And I think it's now, we haven't got to that final stage of that really, what is the balance on hybrid, and I think a lot of organisations are still working through that, from being at home pretty much 100% to getting that right balance over choice and meeting all the business demands.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. There's a sort of question here which I'll sort of share from Nicole, so thanks for that. But it's more about, it's quite an interesting one in terms of parents. It's really talking about parents' lack of sleep. So in terms with their children having a lack of sleep, you know, so if you've got young children, a very young age. So is there kind of any research out there to see how that lack of sleep is impacting your employees? Sean, especially with you, you may have seen this. And are they being, I guess the point about the question is, are they being honest about ringing in and saying they're being off sick for this apparent reason, or are they being quite honest in that way?
I can't honestly say, Peter, it's a specific example I've heard of where they're saying due to lack of sleep that they're unable to work. I mean, we have, I think a big part of our function and our roles as well does allow, we have weekend working, we have evening, so people are balancing their lives and their roles around their families as well. So we have that to throw into contention, but in principle we would expect our leadership to be empowered and have those discussions with their people, and they have that level of support. You know, we have, like most organisations, parental days that are available for the right circumstances. So as an employer, for us, our people's well-being is paramount as well. So that I'd expect that to come out in managerial conversations with our people, but not something I've specifically heard of sleep deprivation. No. No. Jennifer, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the things that we provide when we provide a platform to employers that we call the work and family space that addresses all the different life stages of family life, you know, planning a child through to becoming a carer of adult dependents and every possible stage in between. We even address pet care now. One of the things that comes up for our Speak to an Expert line, which is part of that platform, quite frequently is sleep, both sleep ourselves and sleep for children in particular, and children of quite a range of ages. And we get outstanding feedback on that Speak to an Expert service that's really heartening. And I know that a lot of people who work with us are really encouraged by that feedback. It's kind of why they do what they do. And when people respond, they say, you know, they literally write a sort of textbook description of why we do what we do. There's a bit saying basically, because you've taken away the worry for me of my child sleeping, because I've been able to you know, latch on to an expert that really knows how to guide me through this situation, I'm more able to work. You know, I've got more attention for my work. So I think wherever employers can point to practical advice for people, I mean, the childcare provision is you know, just incredibly fundamental, and you know, there is a place for things like helplines and support lines where people can get advice, and if they are having trouble with sleep, there are people that can really guide on this. And when you put that in place as an employer, it's phenomenal how much engagement you get, because people are just sort of, you know, you've solved the thing that was distracting me.
Yeah, and you can see at that very young age it's going to be an issue. You kind of get that, and I think and then you're right. I think line managers, Sean, you know, their trade, and then signposting. You know, as you say, that support function, like Jennifer just said, they need to be able to point them in the right direction to get the kind of help they need. So, okay, let's run on to our next poll. Thank you for that question. So, do you provide any childcare support currently, and kind of almost what form? So, is it A, childcare vouchers? B, workplace nursery salary sacrifice scheme, C, discounts sponsored by your employer, D, signposting service to help find childcare options, or E, other. There was another one you could add into the mix. So, Sean, I'm going to come to you first. You live and breathe in this, so what's your thoughts on what will come out on top there?
If I'm honest, Peter, I think signposting the services will probably come out for the majority. I could be way off the mark, but I'm not aware of lots of other things in the provision. So I think it may be the signposting to the people.
Okay, we'll see. Paul, what are you going for?
So I'd imagine a lot of people still do the childcare vouchers, but they're obviously being grandfathered out at the moment. I'm with Shaun. I think a few people will be doing the discounts because cost of living is such a pressure for everyone at the moment, and probably signposting as well. So I'm hedging my bets a little.
Okay, so Jennifer, are you going to agree? Are you going to go against the grain?
No, I'm going to agree, because in budget terms, that's the easiest thing to put in place. It's not going to have the most leverage. Something like a discount scheme or a nursery salary sacrifice scheme will have the biggest return on investment, but it is an investment up front.
Okay, all right, well, let's have a look at the answers. So here we go, drum roll. Okay, so yeah, I mean, not far out, is it really? So, yeah, 44% childcare vouchers with the 31% signposting, and obviously 19 another. So yeah, I mean, any thoughts on that response? Paul, any thoughts on that?
So I was surprised not to see some discounting, but actually reflecting on it a little bit just quickly, that may well be due to the fact that we've got a lot of childcare provision closing in the UK due to some cost pressures and some pressures around recruitment. So I suspect that might be a reflection of the fact that the childcare providers may not be able to offer discounts in the way that they perhaps have done in the past.
Okay, good. Right, in the essence of the time, we'll just move on a bit if we could. Paul, I'm going to come to you for this one actually. So let's talk about, is there a risk for employees that choose to support employees just through, let's say, remuneration and a standard set of benefit supports? Is there a risk there?
Yeah, I think there is. And we do talk to employers who say, yeah, we compensate people well, and that's what we do, and therefore we're perhaps a little bit more reluctant to do anything else. But I think for this group, I would imagine that a lot of people will want to identify what it is that enables people to work, and they will be very keen and interested to support well-being, engagement, and loyalty amongst their population. So we've seen, just in the conversation today, we've seen the rise of the importance of family, and yeah, I think there is the risk there in that employers need to demonstrate they are, our view would be that employers need to demonstrate that they're listening. There are schemes such as the salary sacrifice piece, which employees will miss out on if employers aren't providing a form of employer-sponsored childcare. We know, again, referring to the data, so there's a Gallagher survey that showed that 85% of employers are planning to increase their employee benefits, as this is an area of scrutiny for new hires. So again, that feels like an area of potential risk. And then in terms of focusing on revenue only, if we look at our own latest parental leave and family support benchmark, we know and we can see that leading employers now go well beyond policies of enhanced parental paid leave, and they are spreading their investment to services that will help their employees and have confidence in the return on the investments, such as coaching and childcare. So by way of summary, yeah, Peter, I think it is a risk if employers aren't looking at this.
Yeah. And in terms of sort of considerations that employers might, if they're contemplating providing either on-site or near-site childcare support, what are those considerations? Yeah,
so for on-site support, being realistic about it, you've got to have for Shaun's business, you've got to have a good number of people, a good cohort of people, realistically 1,000 plus coming into the work sites on a fairly regular basis, or it's very difficult to make a work site provision just be commercially viable. For the near site, it is that little bit easier, and certainly partnering with local nurseries where employers can adopt places in nurseries. There's no capex involved. Clearly, there's no large investment, so that's a little bit easier. And then what we very often get from employers, or what we hear from employers, is look, my people are all over the place. So we have, we've developed the backup care solutions for when people have breakdowns in the regular care arrangements, and if they're interested in equity across a dispersed employee population, that's very often a brilliant way to support people.
Yeah, great. And Shaun, you know, let's back to you again in terms of you've obviously had to make choices here with your own scheme. So I guess, can you talk us through your own decision-making process? I know it's been in place for some time, but it's obviously evolved.
Yeah, it has from the outset, as you say, Peter, but it has evolved. And so as part of our decision is well, it's twofold. It's around the people element, absolutely. So the engagement, their well-being, the enabling of them being able to work, aligning to our operating model. So they're all part of our key decision making, as well as the attraction and the retention benefits. So they're all part of our ongoing considerations. I think the other thing for us is it's a really, you know, it's built up over time, and it's a real, from our people proposition point of view, we know it's a strong attractor, but it's a really part of, it aligns with our brand and our culture. We talk about people matter more. So really it's giving that emphasis on really how does it, you know, motivate our people to work, but it really, when they're on site, when they're working, they're really focused on delivering. They can focus on their development and their career with the reassurance they've got that quality of care. So it's really a well-rounded thing in terms of our decision making and ongoing. As I say, it's more about the enhanced side of things now. We've had it established. We review, we revisit, working close partnership with Bright Horizons as well, so they fully understand our challenges and the changes, and that we can flex together. So all of those are key considerations, really. I think it really, for me, in terms of a return on the investment and in terms of attraction and retention, you know, it ticks the box every time.
Yeah, so you're seeing some real positives there, which is obviously part of this, isn't it? It's a big part of what we're talking about today, about looking at that attraction piece and that retention piece. So any questions, please, anything specific, again, please do ask. We've got a great panel here, so please do send your questions in, and I'll put them to them. So Paul, you know, let's say extra cost at the moment is going to be a big ask for many organizations and boards to approve. So, you know, it is kind of expensive, and we just talked about return on investment. What can we expect here?
Yeah, so it depends on what the, so very broadly and briefly, Peter, it depends on what the right solution is first, right? Whether it is, you know, clearly there is a cost of establishing a nursery on site and a significant amount of capex. You need to have the space and the funds to do it. Perhaps let's say, so it's a long term, you have to take a long term view on this. But what I would say is that there are, you know, as we talked about today a little bit, there's a great business case here for employers around return on investment, around productivity, which is proven out time and time again, both in terms of the investment in nurseries on site and in the investment in partnerships with local nurseries to support your people with the access to and affordability of childcare, and more broadly with the backup care piece for children and adults. The return on investment is a big one, and it's persuasive, and it's our job to just, you know, talk about it and make those links.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Let's at this point, I think we'll do a last poll, actually. So let's just run our last poll at this point. And this is really looking at what is your top talent priority for 2024. So A, recruitment, B, retention, C, well-being, D, productivity, E, inclusion, or F, other. So if everyone could have a go at that one now. Again, I will come to you. Paul, any predictions? What would be top?
You know what, Peter? So I was looking at these and thinking, I would imagine the folk on the panel could probably select all of these, but I wonder if retention and well-being is going to be top. We wait to see.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Yeah, I mean, I would say retention, well-being, and productivity. It depends how, you know, what kind of mindset people have come with. Retention and well-being are huge priorities for employers, but productivity is the bottom line that's becoming quite pressing. So I would see them clustered around those three, but interested to see.
Yeah, and Shaun, what would you say in light of this?
I would agree with all of those comments. I think certainly around the retention, well-being, and productivity. I suppose it depends as well on how static the workforce is for some organisations. Recruitment might be there for some that have got a real talent attraction consideration. But for those not, I would be certainly around that retention, well-being, and development. Which isn't on there.
Well, let's have a look at the result. Yeah, I think you're right, you're spot on, really. Pretty much all of you there. So let's have a look at the sort of responses here. So yeah, I mean, it is in that order, really. With 36% retention, 29% well-being, and that 14% productivity. So yeah, with inclusion, sort of is similar as well, actually. So yeah. So any kind of Jennifer, any sort of thoughts on those results?
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to see that inclusion has made it to the same level, because that's such an important conversation that we've been having more openly in the last few years, and it's crucial to carry on with it. So great to see that up there too.
Great. Okay. All right. I won't come with, again, in the essence of time, we'll kind of move on, but that's great. Okay. Just a quick question has come in here as well, and maybe let's start, if I just come to you, Shaun, for this one. How do you support remotely working colleagues?
So all of our colleagues do work part of their time in the office, so they're not 100% remotely based. But for the time they are at home working, they have a choice, so they can actually still use our facility. As part of our wider group, we have the backup care provision as well that our employees can utilise. But fundamentally, because they can use the service this Monday to Friday, the childcare provision on site, as I say, they've got that choice and have got flexibility when they come in the office. Because as I say, we are working to them being in a number of times, so the two probably complement each other, Peter, in approach. I think it's a very different challenge if everybody was 100% working from home, because it would really then question and challenge how we operate the facility.
Yeah. And did Jennifer or Paul want to come in on that one as well? I mean, you'll probably offer something up to you in terms of a resource there.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly join in and say I'm glad that Shaun's rightly evidenced the backup care there that HSBC provides, don't they, as an overarching benefit. Because, you know, sometimes people have the concept that because people can work from home, it doesn't really matter if childcare doesn't work out on a given day. But again, coming back to our research, well over 50% of people have admitted that if they find themselves looking after children on a day when they're working from home, their productivity takes a nosedive. And kind of any of us who've got particularly younger children or have had younger children know that, you know, they don't mix. So I think backup care is really crucial, whether people are leaving home to come into a central place of work, or whether they're sitting in a room, an office at home. The children need to be not only looked after so that the parent can be productive, but they also need that important education and care. So I think that's a crucial piece for remote workers, as it is also for people being on site.
Yeah, and Jennifer, also we talk about childcare, and some people think it's a place to park children while parents work. So what else do we actually mean when we use that kind of for the phrase, I guess, early years education?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right to pick up on that, Peter, because there's a crucial difference between childcare as a way of helping labour market participation, which is very much the driver that's often talked about in a business setting for investing in childcare, and it's a very valid reason on the one hand, and then on the other hand, what it's doing for the children themselves, because it isn't simply a way to keep them quiet till the parents pick them up again. I'm thinking here of Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales and the Royal Foundation, which has done such great work on evidencing the first 5 years in a young person's life being, when all of those neuronal connections are made and huge foundations are set down for life, and the greatest speed of development takes place at that point. I know Kate Middleton made a speech recently at the Design Museum in London in mid-November, also talking about the importance of social skills as a real foundation for life and the importance of those in the early years. And in Bright Horizons, we cover the early years foundation stage, as required in early years settings. And we also have overlaid on that a curriculum called Bright Beginnings, which absolutely centres the child's own resilience and their ability to be sort of self-mastering in their learning. And that's really encouraging those skills, those social skills, and those skills of sort of impulse control for the child. So it's really building their resilience, hence they become the brilliant workers of the future that Shaun had mentioned earlier. And the other thing that we've been doing, which is phenomenal, we have an early childhood team under our director, Caroline Wright. They do amazing stuff, you know, with neuroscience, with the latest research into child development. And one of the areas of focus that's really important is that the adults who are providing that early years education themselves need to be aware of their impact on the children. So how can we attend to the well-being of the adults and the way that those adults might be triggered by different situations, and how they can respond to the child really fully in the moment rather than reacting. So there's a lot of incredibly inspiring work going on, not only on the children's curriculum, but on the adults themselves. And, you know, how do we as adults really be child-centered? So it's incredible the level of support and education that's there. And I think many parents during lockdown, you know, they got by and my goodness, they did miracles of delivering both work and life, you know, with children rampaging. But we all knew that if that was happening, the children were missing out on social skills. They were missing out on some fairly fundamental aspects of their own development. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind when we talk about early years education rather than only childcare.
Yeah. And Shaun, I mean, what early years education does that mean to you at First Direct? You know, and I guess how do you communicate that to your employees?
Yeah, I think for us it isn't just a place of it fills a need, as in there's a place for your children to be looked after. It's really key to us in terms of the quality of care and the education that's delivered whilst within that setting. I mean, we win numerous customer awards at First Direct, but again, the quality of care, we have the same expectation that the service we receive will be the same. So how we communicate in lots of ways is interesting for us. The Bright Horizons team on site, you know, the nursery workers, they're part of our organisation, they're part of our family. It's very visible to all of our people because it's physically on site. We promote it. They're often included in any events and activities. So we have the children out of the nursery and within the sites, and obviously we do promotions and there's communications, etc. So very much anybody that from day one that works here, you know, knows it's part of our offering, but part of our family, and is inclusive in everything we do. But again, we're really keen. We have regular review meetings, and the quality of what's being delivered, understanding the education, understanding the offerings for the children and what's new are really key in terms of the updates. You know, we're not the experts in any shape or form, but seeing that, and then obviously it's really key in terms of what we hear from our people that substantiates that backup. But we know, I mean, the two nurseries that we run, the one in Leeds has just been recently rated outstanding by Ofsted. The Scotland one received a 5 from the Care Inspectorate. So we know we're getting high quality care, and we've known that from our parents for a number of years. And again, without, you know, quoting parents often summarises things the best, doesn't it, in a way? And the talk here, he's had 3 children in the nursery, couldn't be happier. The children always love it. She feels confident that her daughter, who currently attends, is well looked after and always enjoys her time there. You know, the nursery and staff are fantastic. My oldest daughter has a different nursery before, and Bright Horizons is definitely the gold standards of nursery delivered at First Direct. Both my girls have come on leaps and bounds since joining the nursery, and they have bonds with the staff, which is lovely to see and make us parents feel at ease. And thank you to everybody. But again, I think it just reflects for us, it's not just about providing, you know, the care. It is the quality and the provision and the difference that then makes to your people, the personal lives and how they perform at work.
Brilliant. I mean, again, those real life examples, and it's just great to hear, you know, what impact that's having, isn't it? A positive impact. So, Jennifer, this funded places, let's just talk about that, you know, now it comes in near the end here. So I understand they're only going to cover 38 weeks a year. What else should employers sort of consider as I guess, a cost of living support?
Yeah, I think that's really important, Peter. So, you know, from April, there will be the 15 hours of funded places for 2-year-olds, for working parents. Then there will be the 15 hours for all children from 9 months up to 5 years, taking into account that there's already provision for 3- and 4-year-olds. And then by the September 2025, there will be the 30 hours, as you say, for all of those age groups. However, the 30 hours only applies to 38 weeks in the year. So if you average that over the year, we're really looking at about 22 hours per week. So there are gaps in the schedule that employers and employees will need to figure out and fill. Backup care, again, comes into that. Many of our employer partners make sure that their employees are aware they can access school holiday clubs, for example, through backup care. So older children, you know, are provided for when there's that gap in the year, but also children of every age are catered for by backup care on days when their care doesn't work out. Maybe the child's unwell, can't go to the nursery. So there's a need for wraparound. There's a need for some thinking on the part of employers as to, you know, there are a lot of parents getting really excited about the funded places and thinking, this is going to set me up now. And you know, it is a big help. It's definitely the right mindset. And we need to think about, you know, what will parents do around those hours? Will they need some extra flexibility? Will they need some extra care provision? And what happens when it doesn't work out on a given day? And the other thing is, you know, inclusion was there in the poll earlier, which we celebrated seeing. When it comes to inclusion in terms of family life, we mustn't forget parents of older children, and we mustn't forget, as we touched on earlier, people whose family is more furry and four-legged, the sort of pets that are the members of the family. And one of the things that we've seen happen, or that we've developed hand in hand with employers in the last few years, is for backup care to cover things like pet care and to cover things like virtual tutoring for older children. So I know I'm going off the subject of the funded places, but I guess I'm stepping off into an opportunity to think about, you know, if employers are really getting to grips with this, let's think about family life in its broadest sense, and let's also think about carers. But coming back to the funded places, let's recognise that it's not a magic wand. It won't cover a full-time job. So, you know, as employers, how can we step into that space and provide some wraparound?
Yeah, yeah. And John, just your own nursery provision. So just tell us more about it and how it kind of helps with the cost of living, do you think?
Well, obviously the funding does help, but for our people, we operate the payment via the salary sacrifice scheme. So yeah, fundamentally the obvious benefits of tax savings from that perspective, and we also provide a subsidy in terms of the payment, so we partially subsidise the payment as well. So from our people point of view and their cost of living, that makes a real difference. Then when you consider the added value of there's not added time driving to and from a nursery because it's in their place of work, which would no doubt go on to their additional hours. And the fact that we can then schedule it around how our operating model works, again, means that they're paying for we know they're paying for the hours that they utilise, so they're not having to book morning or afternoon sessions, they're booking it in a block linked to their shift pattern. So all of those absolutely, with the subsidy, the salary sacrifice, then contribute to really paying a reduced rate, and certainly highly competitive compared to what they would probably just get on the high street, so to speak. And the further benefit for us by being on site, we can include everything within that price, so they know they've not got any add-ons. So we cover, you know, the food provision, nappy provision, all those types of things. So it's a one-off cost, subsidised, you know, that delivers it. And then when you throw in obviously the quality and the rating of care that they're receiving, I don't know how best to phrase it, it's a little bit like a no-brainer for me in terms of an option. So yeah, they're probably the main things in terms of the things that benefit from a cost of living. They obviously then throw in all the other benefits we've touched around the retention, you know, the commitment to brand, commitment to role, etc. So yeah, absolutely adds great value.
Yeah, no, I can see that clearly. Paul, just any, you know, are any other kind of innovative ideas that employers have been considering and trialing or put in place, especially, you know, when budgets are so tight?
Yeah, I think the so the nursery partnerships piece is fairly innovative, taking spaces at a nursery rather than starting your own effectively. So that does give a bit more flexibility. And likewise, backup care for children and adults has been around for a while, Peter, but it's still, I think it's still fairly innovative in terms of how it supports employees and taking steps to make sure that people can manage their work and family commitments.
Yeah, yeah. And really, I mean, we're nearly there actually. But just I guess a final question. And I know we talked a little bit today about kind of survey feedback and data. Data is always a really important part, you know, in terms of building up a story, isn't it? Really. But so what data does an employer need to gather, I guess, in order to better understand their options, Paul?
So on this, the folk on this call will survey their people, right? So, and they're always, you know, GDPR considerations and around data gathering and sharing. But my sense is that I would encourage everybody to be asking the right questions around how personal responsibilities impact on work responsibilities, because we know they're there, and sometimes it's just a question of kind of foregrounding them. But I would suggest that if employers, I should say, can ask those questions around how family and work are butting up against each other, I think you get some really good data that tells you and when you get people talking, people will talk quite clearly about how it impacts their ability to, you know, further their career, participate in the workforce. And armed with that data, we know that it's not all kind of doom and gloom. These things can be difficult, but we know that there are really good solutions out there that can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you said, legacy systems to bring together and stuff like that, but you know, tech is getting so much better at pulling all that kind of information together. So, okay, we're going to kind of finish up soon. So, any other questions? Please do share them with us, really. But in light of that, you know, I think, you know, Shaun, coming to you really just on hybrid. I know we talked about hybrid and this kind of whole thing about transition. So, you know, how to sort of decide short term or long term what you're working towards. You know, for First Direct, it won't be 100% in the office, or where are you with that?
No, we're working through that still, Peter, but it won't be 100% working in the office. It will be a mixed, whether that's, you know, 50% of people's working time, and with flexibility around that. You know, that's the expectation. We have a lot of people that choose to do more than that as well for a variety of reasons. But I think certainly in the hybrid's here to stay. I think it's just interpreted in different ways, and we need to, you know, work with that change and balance it for our employees, and align our benefits accordingly. But again, we certainly look long term when talking around that, underlining that again to having our ongoing childcare provision.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, listen, I think we pretty much there. So listen, let's wrap it up there. So thank you, listen, everyone, and for your questions. So, you know, we hope you find some useful facts, insights, ideas, and guidance today, so you can look at offering your people access to quality, affordable, and accessible childcare, which can be a core part of your retention strategy and provide cost of living support. And my thanks to our panel today, Shaun, Jennifer, and Paul, for your excellent insights, knowledge, and kind of real life examples as well, and to Bright Horizons for partnering with us. There, we will do the recording as always. We'll do a little tidy up and get that to you so you can watch again and share with colleagues. But thank you all for joining us and taking part, and hope you can join us for another webinar next year now. So thanks. Listen, my thanks, Shaun. Thank you, Jennifer, and thanks, Paul. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks all.
Thanks.
so
very
bye for
much.
now, everyone.